Nobody is overlooking ESPN's disrespectful treatment of the best scorer in college basketball history. Caitlin Clark dropped almost 4,000 points in her debut season, set records that lasted for decades, elevated a non-powerhouse institution to national prominence, and revolutionized the WNBA's appeal. However, when ESPN released their list of the greatest 5 women's collegiate players ever, Cheryl Miller, who did make the list, defended Clark more tenaciously than anybody else, calling out media prejudice and even using the word despised to describe how Clark is being handled. Clark's name was nowhere to be found, not even a sympathy spot.
To be honest, because it needs to be said, I can relate to that young lady, and I felt for her. I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be a black woman and hated because of my color.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this young lady, I don't want to use hate, but despised. And people just having, she brought some on herself a little bit because she's cocky for a good reason. And I love that about her. But to watch the dynamics and the media, they had their narrative. And I was pleased and proud to see the narrative wasn't the truth.
This isn't just about statistics or snubs. It's about race rivalry and the uncomfortable truth behind the biggest breakout star in women's basketball. So what's really happening is that Caitlin Clark is being punished for being too good, too popular, or too white in a league that is dominated by black people. Why are some legends praising her as Stephen Curry's next big thing, while others act like she's a glitch in the Matrix? How did Patrick Beverley end up calling her a gangster on camera? Oh, we're getting into it, but before we dissect the ESPN snub, the Cheryl Miller mic drop, and the deeper layers behind Clark's rise and resistance, make sure you're subscribed. This is the WNBA deep dive they don't want you to see. This really died occur. Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever's breakout superstar, has just been snubbed by ESPN. The same Caitlin Clark who rewrote record books with a jaw-dropping 3,951 points and 1,044 assists at Iowa apparently isn't top 5 material according to ESPN's latest all-time ranking, and that list will get to it, but let's just say it's not sitting well with fans, players, or legends. But trust me, this isn't just about a ranking, because behind that snub lies a bigger storm race, rivalries, media narratives, and one absolute legend who's not holding back anymore. We're talking Cheryl Miller, Time Magazine, Patrick Beverley, and a whole lot of people weighing in on whether Caitlin Clark is despised just for being great. So why was she snubbed? Clark didn't just score. She rewrote the NCAA history books. She holds the all-time scoring record across men's and women's basketball. She wasn't surrounded by 5-star recruits. This wasn't UConn or Tennessee. Even though this Iowa squad wasn't particularly strong, she led them to prominence at the national championship level. Later, ESPN released a ranking of the top 5 women's collegiate players of all time, but Caitlin Clark wasn't on it. It's impossible to dispute Breanna Stewart's 4 national titles with UConn and 4 Final Four mops at that point. Parker Candace Tracy, Diana Moore, Maya, legends from the UConn or Tennessee, and finally Cheryl Miller, the USC powerhouse who dominated the 1980s and won 3 Namath Player of the Year awards and 2 national titles. Well, those are legends, but how does Clark fail to make the top 5? She literally changed the game, and ESPN had to place her alongside Brittany Griner in the just missed category. Plum, Kelsey Lynette Woodard, and Shemek Holdsclaw. The internet quickly erupted, with fans furious and commentators baffled. Was this just another instance of ESPN sensationalism, or was there anything more going on here? Somebody who isn't keeping silent at all. Cheryl Miller, yes, the Cheryl Miller, and ironically, she was one of the 5 people who made ESPN's list, but even she couldn't believe what was happening to Caitlin Clark. On the All the Smoke podcast, Miller went off and called out the critics, calling them big dummies, before saying something that no one expected, and that made me feel sorry for her. I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be a black woman and be hated because of my color. I can't imagine this young lady. I don't want to use hate, but despised. That statement stopped the internet cold because Cheryl Miller wasn't just defending Clark's statistics. She was exposing something raw, something that few people want to discuss in public. Caitlin Clark is white, but the majority of the WNBA is black. As Clark's fame grew, people began to wonder why she was receiving so much attention. Sheila Johnson, co-owner of Washington Mystic, didn't hold back either. In an interview with CNN, she claimed to have seen numerous equally talented players of color who never received the credit they deserved. And then there was the Time magazine cover. Clark earned the title of 2024's Athlete of the Year, not just in basketball but in all sports. Her WNBA rookie season saw her average 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game, shattering rookie scoring records, breaking single-season assist records, making the All-Star team, and finishing fourth in MVP voting. However, some league insiders disagreed, even WNBA legend Sheryl Swoopes, who criticized Clark's Time cover, claiming it should have gone to the entire WNBA. You can see the pattern here. In her comments on CNBC, WNBA Commissioner Kathy Angelberg said, "Two rookies came in from a big college rivalry, one white, one black, and so we have that moment with these two." This comparison caused a stir in the sports community and was reminiscent of Larry Bird's Magic Johnson moment. It wasn't because Caitlin Clark wasn't performing. Rather, it was because her success was igniting resentment, and race was undoubtedly a factor. When she brought up Clark and Angel Reese, the once adorable rivalry suddenly stopped feeling so innocent. How did this rivalry even begin in college? The media adored the match between Clark and Angel Reese, the feisty, unrepentant black star from LSU and the fire-shooting white girl from Iowa. It was one of the most viewed women's basketball games ever. It was simple to sell the contrast, and the media wove a story as usual, but Cheryl Miller didn't believe it and brought some on herself. "She's cocky for a good reason," Miller said of Clark. But the media had their story, and I was happy and proud to see that it wasn't the truth. Miller had coached both Reese and Clark during the 2024 WNBA All-Star Game, and she claimed that the alleged feud was completely overblown. "Angel and her got along so well," Miller said, so the tension the media hyped up was just more fuel for the clicks, while real relationships were being ignored and Clark was left to bear the heat, sometimes literally on and off the court. For a moment? Let's change the subject, because if you were thinking that this was just a media or WNBA issue, former NBA player Patrick Beverley is here to blow that up. He was working out at a gym with Caitlin Clark on one side, and he couldn't believe what he saw. He said, "I'm looking at her shoot it, and she's one of those shooters where it's like, damn bro, why'd you throw that pass bad, give me the ball to my chest. I'm like, oh, she's a gangster." Additionally, that's great praise from Beverley. He doesn't usually give praise, but Caitlin Clark gained his respect by demanding accuracy, moving with grace, and treating every exercise like a playoff game. She didn't just belong, she owned it. Now, for the main question, why is a player who meets all the boxes, has stellar performance records, is popular, and is a leader still subject to such scrutiny? It's not just about being white in a league where black players predominate, it's also about how narratives are constructed and who controls them. Cheryl Miller understands because she has been there herself. She knows what it's like to be judged before being understood, and she won't allow Caitlin Clark to fall victim to a media machine that is desperate for division because you're getting paid right now. According to Miller, everyone now has the chance to pull up their chair and take a seat. But what happens when the room isn't ready for you? That's where Caitlin Clark is at the moment. Loved by millions, revered by legends, ignored by the establishment, and, depending on who you ask, possibly even despised. The real question isn't whether she belongs in the top 5, which has already been determined on the court. Rather, it's how many people have the courage to acknowledge it. ESPN's rejection of Caitlin Clark goes beyond a rating. It demonstrates how difficult it can be for certain players to receive the credit they merit after recording close to 4,000 points and more than 1,000 assists. Her numbers are astounding, Yet this instance shows how media narratives may occasionally obscure genuine brilliance. Cheryl Miller's backing of Clark highlights a significant problem. Sports success is not just about numbers, it's also about how others perceive those accomplishments. Many fans are beginning to realize that some players receive more criticism than others, particularly those who don't match the conventional mold. This is about how society handles success that goes against conventional wisdom, not simply about Clark being a fantastic player. Although the rivalry with Angel Ree has been exaggerated, we should recognize the contributions that both players make to the game, Patrick. Whether you believe Caitlin Clark is receiving too much attention or not enough, the statistics don't lie. She's doing things the game has never seen before. If she's still being ignored, you have to ask, what's really going on? Is this about basketball, or is it about who gets to be the face of it? Beverly's praise for Clark demonstrates that true talent can shine through any bias. Okay, so let's get down to business. Did ESPN get Caitlin Clark completely wrong, or are we all simply exaggerating her? Is this only an instance of media bias, or do you believe there's more to the story? Do you think rivalries like Clark and Reese's help or damage women's basketball? How do you feel about the way race affects how WNBA players are recognized? Here's a spicy one. Was Clark's exclusion from that list a poor decision or a calculated ploy to stir things up?